fabulous people. It is
Welcome.
Kaz of Kaz and Julie, the Kaz and Julie Show.
Or the Julie and Kaz Show.
No. We've already decided. Kaz and Julie rolls off the tongue. I am Kaz. I am a registered massage therapist and energy healer and owner of Key Health and Wellness in Whitby.
And I am Julie. I am a health and nutrition coach, owner of Balanced Life with Julie.
And we want to thank you for joining us today. We have an interesting topic about toxic relationships.
This is something that affects everyone. So,
absolutely. And we're not just talking about romantic relationships here.
It could be sibling relationships, friendships. We've talked about work, but yeah, it could be boss or people you work with. It could be parents. Any number of people in your life that bring you down. And there's a saying that if you have no toxic people in your life, maybe you're the toxic person.
That could well be.
So, yeah.
That's good because I have lots of toxic people in my life. I'm just kidding. I find since I started being more aware of toxic people, and more or less having some sort of radar for their energy, I'm able to avoid them. They're not absent from my life. Sometimes it's just, it is what it is, but they do not have the same impact on my life as they would have done in the past. And I'm thinking specifically about work, but about friendships too.
Yeah. So, you're in a toxic relationship if you walk away or you spend time with someone and you walk away feeling drained or exhausted, or you dread hearing from them or seeing them because there's obviously something off in that relationship. Like when we're in a good relationship with another human being, we should feel energized and inspired instead of feeling like crap about ourselves and our life choices.
Or instead of anticipating, okay, what's going to happen today when we go out? What are they going to bitch about? And yes, it's never fun to be around people like that. It is extremely draining.
Yeah, it may not necessarily be like that person is, saying something not nice to you about you. It could just be like their whole outlook on life is just not a joy to be around. And that obviously has an effect on you.
And it's funny, as we move into the fall and Thanksgiving comes around, there's all these TV shows and movies that always highlight the dread that comes with spending time with family. And it's quite funny, the dynamics that every family seems to have, that oh God, and then the door opens and everyone's like, hi, and then you spend time together and then you get in the car and you go home and you're like, holy shit, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So I guess I think everyone has those relationships. We can probably all think of one or two people right now who you're like, I have to mentally prepare myself for that moment that we meet, that time we spend together. You and I as energy workers, I know there's times I really have to do some cleansing before and after of myself, of the space. Maybe I have to do a little protection spell before someone comes along because I know their energy, their negative outlook is just going to be very draining, or it could be very draining. And even for me as a RMT, I have clients that are in some aspect a bit toxic because they are, when they lay on that table, they're releasing things, but it's not always dandelions and buttercups. Sometimes it's the pile of dog shit at the park.
Yeah. And I think it also depends on who the person is, because one of the things I've realized is as we move through life, we're not necessarily meant to have certain people in our life forever, right? Because as we change and evolve as human beings, hopefully we do that inner work so that we are evolving. We're not the same as we were in high school. you can outgrow people, and you can also see aspects of people that maybe you never saw before. So for example, I was friends with somebody for a really long time. And when we like 17 years, long time. And when we first became friends, I would say that I was mentally and emotionally at the same place that she was at. Mm-hmm. But over the course of doing multiple yoga teacher trainings and meditation retreats and all of this inner work that I've done and continue to do, I sort of evolved past that person. And I would notice that my conversations with her were always such an energy drain. And because all she did was complain about her life, mm-hmm. complain about her ex-husband, complain about her kids, complain about her current boyfriend, and on and on. The complaint train was in full effect. You mm-hmm. could not get off this thing. So I would because I am a loyal friend, I would continuously check up on her. We lived in different cities, thankfully. I would check up on her, but I always dreaded the phone calls and the conversations. And for a while, I continued to have a friendship with her because just out of we've been friends for X number of years. And then an event happened which caused that friendship to end. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I was sad for a number of days because we had been friends for so long. And now that it's been a while, it's been well over a year, and I've had some perspective, I'm glad that person is no longer in my life. I wish them well. I hope definitely she figures her stuff out. But her in my life was a big energy drain, mm-hmm. and it wasn't fun. And sometimes we have that situation, maybe if we have people in our family that are that toxic, you don't necessarily get to, not have a relationship with your family, unless you're, of course, me. But other people. So you can definitely set up boundaries, but also understanding that I don't know that we're necessarily supposed to be friends with the same people forever and ever and ever. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're working on yourself and changing your belief system and letting go of programming.
So I know one thing, if I was to be listening to this podcast, my question would be, when you are in that toxic relationship, how do you remove yourself from it, or at least sort of protect yourself from it? And I think one of the important things we have to do is remove that level of guilt that we feel for someone else's behavior or actions, mm-hmm. because they are coming from a different place from us. And I too had a very good friendship part ways because we were at different levels. And there was this level of guilt with me, what did I do? Why does it not work? And then one day when I realized it's just not meant to continue right now, or maybe forever, because I am doing better things in my life. There's some challenges she would face, and I made an effort to assist, whether she feels like I did a great job or not. It's still on her. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot of communication when we just stopped being friends. From her part, I really don't understand why, but I just decided, you know what? I'm moving forward. I'm moving on my journey, and she's welcome to still be part of my life, but it has to be at my level in terms of no more negative bitch fests talking about the ex and mm-hmm. all the shit gossiping that's going wrong. And really, if you take a step back and do a little gratitude work, write down all the things that you are grateful for and the good things in your life, you'll be able to see that it's much better than you're anticipating, or that you're projecting, I should say, sorry. Mm-hmm. So anyone that maybe is in a toxic relationship, whether it's friendship, relationship-wise, parents even, that's a tricky one. I feel like that could be a subject matter all in itself, because there's a whole other conditioning that we've gone through. And for me, I was raised, you respect your elders, you don't talk back to them. But there are things my parents do and say that wholeheartedly I disagree with. It hurts my psyche to listen to what they say and to sometimes be in their presence. And so for me, removing that guilt, I'm allowed to feel that way. It's okay if I don't agree with them. It's not okay that I go and sit and nod and agree and then feel like shit or subject myself to that. So once I took the onus off, it helped a lot. And then just limiting contact, or if they go into a rant about something, then just removing myself from that particular conversation or situation, because you don't have to have a confrontation about it. I just decide to go somewhere else, or I change the subject matter entirely, or I just don't go visit as much.
Yeah. I mean, like in terms of my parents, that relationship was so toxic that I actually left home at 15. And I never went back. I don't have a relationship with my parents. And that is out of love and respect for myself. I hope that wherever they are, whatever they're doing, they're well. And if they had ever choose to work on themselves, I would entertain having a conversation. But I didn't really want to be in a relationship with them where I would be told what to do with my life and judged harshly every time I failed to live up to expectations. And, obviously you're hearing this, but I come from a South Asian background, and my parents were very traditional in that I was going to get married off, and there were some very strict rules for women versus men. And I don't agree with any of that. And so I chose to go my own way. And that is a long story for another time. But I feel like a big part of my own learning as a human being has been finding the relationships in my life that feed my soul, that allow me to be 100% authentic and in who I am, with no facade or fakeness, because that kind of stuff turns me off big time. And, I have recognized that over the years as I've gone through life that sometimes certain friendships don't work out. And sometimes it's not even that you have a big falling off. You just stop talking to each other. And I used to mourn those relationships because I think not having a family made me want everything to work out with people. But as I've matured, I've recognized that, sometimes people are just not meant to be in your life for decades and decades, and that's okay.
Exactly. And a big part I think we all need to take part in is being accountable for ourselves, because we each play a role in a relationship, friendship, parenting, whatever it is. And so what is my role in this particular situation? And if it's toxic, am I contributing to that, or am I not? And if it is someone else's problem, if it's coming from them, then letting them take ownership for their.
Yeah. So cleaning up your side of the street and then allowing others an opportunity to clean up their side of the street.
Exactly.
Especially when you have 3 wonderful doggies that just wandered into the room, full of joy.
These are not toxic relationships.
Yes, my dogs are full on love fests. Yeah, there's one. Coco has fallen in love with Kaz in a way that I have never seen an animal fall in love with a human.
There is no toxic relationship here. It's all love, baby. Well, thank you all for joining us. That was another lovely podcast.
Yes, it was. And so you can find us on the social. Instagram, I'm at Julie Brar.
And I am at Key Health and Wellness Whitby, which is KI Health and Wellness Whitby.
Yeah. And so thank you. Let us know in your comments and your feedback what you thought about the topic today. If you have anything to add, that would be wonderful. And of course, share the content if you found it helpful. And we'll catch you next time.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.
This show has been produced by podcastexpert.ca.